Hey, it's me, Flubby. Yeah, I'm making a YouTube video. I'm starting a YouTube channel. Um, well, I mean, guess start a YouTube channel wouldn't be that right of a premise because I mean, I've already I already have videos on the channel about Monkey Ball or whatever, but still, I'm doing a series called in no, it was called an in not an inconvenient truth, not that Al Gore movie. It was an incoherent ramble. Because that's what me talking has been so far like. I'm not that smart of a person. Anyway, um so my first episode of an incoherent ramble is about Doug Walker's Pink Floyd The Wall review because he's been getting a lot of shit for it and I think it's hilarious. But I kind of want to give some background information on my history with the Nostalgia Critic. Um, I was like growing up, like in middle school, of course, and early high school. I was a huge fan of the Nostalgia Critic. I would literally look forward to coming home from school and watching a new episode when it came out. Like hell, like I was so autistic about it. I even watched To Boldly Flee. Like that's how autistic I was about it. And not something I'm the most proud of looking back on it. But to me at the time, it just kind of seemed like a bunch of guys like having a good time making videos like you would do in your basement. It's like a bunch of guys making silly videos. That's all it was about. And then of course more context came out about Doug Walker and Channel Awesome with the whole change of channel controversy, and it's like kind of broke that whole illusion completely. And instead of it being like, oh, just a bunch of guys having fun, no, it was an incompetent film director with an inflated ego that was like behind it the whole time, which is sad. But I even continued to watch Nostalgia Critic even after that. Like I didn't watch any of Demo Reel because I wasn't interested in that. I was interested in movie reviews. I was interested with the format. And I think it's just over time his videos to me became less and less funny. And they became a very very skit focused that weren't that funny, and just they hit a point where I just kind of stopped watching him. Uh, so after saying all that, shoot, what was I gonna say? Yeah, so like after that, I kind of phased out from watching the Nostalgia Critic. I got interested in other content and stuff, but just giving you context, I was a really large fan of the Nostalgia Critic, and I found before I dissect this review in particular that he did of the wall, and like he's getting a lot of shit for it, and I can definitely understand why after watching it. I guess I should start by dissecting the premise, the structure of the video, because at a certain point, this was after I stopped watching the Nostalgia Critic. He started doing skitless, not skitless, it's all a skit, clipless reviews, where he basically just reenacted the entire movie like as a skit and just called it a review. This doesn't work. And the reason why it doesn't work is because, first of all, well, not just whether you find it funny or not is kind of a personal kind of preference thing, whether you find it funny or not. But to me, it doesn't work because they make no sense if you've never seen the original source material. Like when you have a review, when you have a clip that if you're doing a comedic review and you have a clip to riff off of, you can immediately point to the clip and say, "Oh, that's stupid. That's bad." And the audience can see what you're talking about. And that you can work that as a joke. This is why the earlier Nostalgia Critic reviews worked in some capacity. But with this, it's just you kind of have to take Doug's word for it. He's he's like reenacting a scene in a movie which is really over exaggerated. He's over exaggerating it, and he's like, oh, this scene is dumb. Well, yeah, that scene does look pretty dumb, but that's just the way you're portraying it. So it's like, if I've never seen the original context of what you're talking about, I have no idea, like, what it's actually like. I can't understand it. It makes no sense to me. And that just defeats the purpose of a review, because, like, it defeats the purpose of a review, because your review, you want to see if something's good or not. You want to see, like, oh, is this good? Is this bad? But with this, you don't even know. So it fails. The structure fails as a review. And I'm not saying that you need to have clips. You need to have clips. You need to segment things, like, to have a review. Like Red Letter Media, like, they can just talk. They don't need clips. They can just talk about a movie, and you get a good idea on what the movie is like based on what they're talking about. They're doing an analysis of the movie. Like, they're giving a critique of the movie. You don't necessarily need clips to do a review. But his structure, his format of he wants to make a parody and a review at the same time. You can't do that. It's an oxymoron. They conflict with one another. You can't parody something and then also give it a review, because you're basically reviewing your own parody. It's a conflict of interest. So right off the bat, the structure of his clipless reviews fails. And so this also applies to the Pink Floyd The Wall review that he did, but this is just an example of that. So this is just another example of that. In fact, Doug Walker's been making these types of videos for a long time, but it just seems like this one was the straw that broke the camel's back for the most people. Like, this, like, heavy dislike ratio. So already, like, there's no structure here. There's no foundation for something. So it's already like a failed bet. There's no structure there for a video like this. You can't make, I've already went over that you can't make a parody and a review at the same time. It's a conflict of interest, because it seems like you're reviewing your own parody. So already it's a bad structure. And he's done multiple videos that are like this. It's been, now, to be fair, Nostalgia Critic has done some traditional reviews in the middle of it, but it's like his clipless reviews kind of turned me out to his channel in the first place. And then after the whole controversy, it's like, you're pretty insane to go back to it. And this review in particular, like, no one's, other than like rabid fanboys, no one's defending it. So so we already established that the foundation isn't there. So why are people picking on this review in particular? First of all, it's insanely embarrassing that he put this much effort into this review. It gives me, like, an insane amount of secondhand embarrassment. Like, this was his magnum opus. I'm going to build the most beautiful mansion you've ever seen, except he didn't realize that in the entire time he was building on quicksand. So he built this beautiful mansion that was on quicksand, or at least what he could make as a mansion. So, like, it's already, like, there's no foundation. It just sinks into the ground. Like, already. It doesn't matter how much effort you put into it. It's based off of a flawed premise, where you can't make a parody and a review at the same time. You can't do it. You have to have them separate to some degree. But it's not just that that's a flawed premise. What's also flawed is that Doug Walker does not understand the original source material. You can go on Wikipedia and you can read just read the first paragraph, like the first two paragraphs of Pink Floyd's The Wall, like, on Wikipedia, and that tells you what it's about. That gives you the context that you need. But Doug didn't even do that. He worked on this entire project for months, and he didn't even do 2 pages of Wikipedia research about it. And to give you a bit of an example of this, there's several examples I can cite, but he did he like well first one is he did this. Probably the worst part of the video was his like probably the most I've never probably the worst part of the video was his parody of like what was it? The we don't need another brick in the wall. Like his parody of that, where he uses that and he takes it to complain about like modern high school, like modern schools, when this song was written based off of the life experiences of someone that grew up in 1950s Britain, where it was okay to beat students, you know? And it was just it's like he twisted it just so he could talk negative about it. That's kind of the impression I can get. And speaking of this, like whole like it just seems so bitter and negative to do something like that, and it's not funny. It's not funny because like this is another problem like about him. Why this fails as a review and this fails as a parody. Not in just that he tried to combine the two and they don't work. Well, it is because of that, but I'll explain more about that. When you make a song parody, you have to have a structure. You have to have something to base it off of. Take like Weird Al Yankovic, like as an example. Like he bad to fat or Gangster's Paradise to Amish Paradise. It's like a silly rewriting of the words to like it's taking a pre-existing song to make it about some silly subject, whatever. But Doug doesn't have a subject for his parodies. It's just his lyrics are like, oh, this is lame. This song is dumb. My head is shaped like a thumb. Like it just doesn't work. It doesn't work in that format. There's no structure to it. Like it fails as a parody. Like Minecraft parodies, like are better parodies than this because they actually have like a structure to base it off of. And to continue with my point on how you cannot mix parody and review in this type of format is when you make a review of something and you're trying to do it in some silly format like you're giving a song, it's hard to really show in any kind of nuance to what you're talking about. Like if you're reviewing something that is not really good but also not really bad either, like you can't really portray that in a song. In order for you to do that, you can only do it if it's amazing or if it's terrible. And Doug just kind of went for the it's terrible route. He's like, this song is dumb, and like the artist is whiny, and this is pretentious and all that. Like it sounds like he hates the frickin' songs. Like it sounds like he hates it. But like in the end, he's just like, oh, it's okay. It's okay. I liked it all right. It was like, yeah, that was the entire review. It was 12 seconds at the end. It's insane. Like it's insane. So, shit. Where was I going on about? And fuck. I'm glad I'm not doing this live because I am really autistic and it's hard to get my points across like that. So, shit. Where was I going on about? It's so dumb. Like, so I went over that, and just another, all his complaints, and this is just another problem with the clipless review. Like, if I haven't seen the original source material, it makes no sense. So if he's doing like, oh, look at me, I'm like Jesus, when he was doing that whole bit, is like, is he actually portraying himself like that, or is it just that's just how Doug sees it? I can't know. I don't see the original source material, and it doesn't work. Like and if you're wrong about it, if you're misinterpreting it like you did in this review, it just makes it look even worse, because it's like you're making fun of something, yet you're also not giving the original context of it. And I'm not even like a fan of like Pink Floyd's The Wall. I've never seen it, which makes this video even worse for me. I've never seen it. So it's like this, to me, this was just like a clusterfuck that made no sense. That's what this video was to me. So, and speaking of which, I'll get onto that later in the end of the video. So yeah, going on later in the review. It's not even like a review. There's so much like to pick apart about it. It's like, you ever see something that's so bad that you almost become obsessed with it? Like, you pick apart. There's so many details you can just pick apart, like in your head, like about it, that it just drives you nuts. Like, there's like you're just thinking, okay, they went wrong right here. What could have been improved? Like, all that. Like, what's good, what's bad, and all that. It's just like I haven't felt that way since Y2K, a postmodern RPG. And maybe I'll make a video about that. I'll probably make a video about that sometime later. But for now, like, that's the feeling that this video gave me. There's so much I can pick apart. For instance, him calling the song Oscar bait, even though like the song was made not for the movie, or was made like a couple of years before the movie. Him saying that you can't really, a one-off line where you can't really be depressed if you have millions of dollars. Him using a song about how the musician who, the main protagonist, Pink, like the scene where he went to the train station and his father wasn't there, using that to complain about the fucking runtime. Well, this is the same guy that made like a 3-hour shitfest known as The Boldly Flee. Like, using that. So, it's the same thing. So, like, there's multiple things you can pick apart about it. But the ending of the video is where it gets really weird. Not just weird as in the context, like, of the video, but it's just, they have this, like, cat person, this anthropomorphic looking, like, DeviantArt My Little Pony villains that show up at the end, and like, it's like, don't get me wrong, the animator, like, obviously really talented. Like, the animation looks really good. You can have some arguments about the character designs. I think they look, for like, out of context, like, if you took them out of this video, like, out of context, they would look pretty good. They would look alright. But that's not really the problem here. It just, like, again, like, going back, I've never seen the original source material, so when I was watching this, I was like, what the fuck is that pink cat thing? What the fuck is that cat thing? Was that part of the movie? Were there these furry, like, fucking My Little Pony villains, like, roaming around in the movie? But no, that wasn't it. It was a lazy way to show off. It was actually just a self-promotion thing. And I'm not really knocking the animator too much for this. The guy is obviously really talented. But it was obviously just just another one of Doug Walker's, like, cameos to promote his videos. Like a shoehorn cameo. That's really what it was. And I didn't know that after watching it. I was like, what the fuck? This animation is way too good for the video that it's in. But the problem, there's a couple problems with that scene regardless. First of all, you have fucking Doug there, just standing there awkwardly while these fucking, like, furry, like, monsters, like, all around him. He's, like, it looks so awkward. Like, it's something I would see in some kind of cringe compilation. It's incredibly awkward. Like, you could put anything there, and it would make just as much. You could put, like, fucking, like, Super Mario, like, with his, like, Super Mario 64 model, and it would be like a old school machinima video or something like that. It would be more fitting. You could put, like, Alex Eggleston, like, he's in, like, a mine dungeon of, like, 3D Furryland. Like, I don't know. You could put whatever. It's just, you put a random character there, and, like, this weird thing. It's just Doug Walker there with his freaking bald, like, graying beard in there. And there's this cat, and like, oi! Oh, this movie gives me the feeling to defecate, or something like that. It's just such a, like, if you didn't see the movie, we wouldn't know any better. And then, I completely forgot about the scene where he's like, hashtag, like, using the scene to like do a base level criticism of social media, which technology bad. Look at the marching smartphones. It's just like, man, dude, it's like so. He had like he like had his person you hate here like drawn on his face, and the marker was smudged, and 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 it's like, oh, it's so, and it's just like, it's just like it come across as like this childish interpretation. It's a very childish interpretation of surreal art. You know that like typical joke that people make, not even really a joke, but just an annoying comment. Whenever someone makes something surreal or creative, and someone's just like, "Oh man, I bet whoever made this was on drugs." Like that's the interpretation that I get that Doug Walker got from this movie. Whoever made this was on drugs. This scene in the movie has weird characters, so let's just put weird characters in my movie. And even the complaint that was in that whole segment with the animated creatures didn't make any sense, because it's like it's a visual medium. It was supposed to be abstract. Like the weird characters that were shown on screen didn't mean to have like developed characters. They were just supposed to be visual representation of all the things that gave the main character such mental health issues, built the metaphorical wall in his head. And then at the end of the trial, he tears down the wall, like meaning breaking the mental barrier. It's a very malleable metaphor, and it was over his head. It was over his head, this whole thing, and he's just like, he got the freaking main singer of Slipknot in it. He got this animator. He got all this. He put months into this. He made a fucking album. All of this, all on quicksand. He just dumped it, just threw it right in the desert, and it just sank. It's like you take $100 and you stand on a bridge, and it's just whoosh. Look at this amazing money, and it's gone. It's nothing. Oh my gosh. Yeah, it's just insane to me. It's hilarious and insane. Like I've been. Oh man, I think this was a good first topic for me to go on a tangent about for this series. Just so this has been my incoherent ramblings about Doug Walker and The Wall. So I hope you guys enjoyed it. Maybe I'll make more videos like this in the future. I don't know. So bye. Bye.